I want to start by taking you to a place where you don't have to do the hustle of lead generation. When you've got wonderful leads coming into your business on a consistent basis, and you know what? They're the right sorts of leads. They're people that match your values. You really enjoy working with them. And just that whole process is super smooth, right? Lead gen doesn't become a stress anymore. You just do the nice bits of sales, which is talking to people who actually want your stuff. Sounds nice, right? Now, I'm not promising a golden bullet for this stuff. That'd be amiss of me to do so. But if anything is going to deliver that for you, it's word of mouth. If you think about where your best clients come from, for most businesses, it's word of mouth. And this stuff goes back, right? It goes back before AI direct messaging on LinkedIn. It goes back before pay-per-click. It goes back before email marketing, before direct mail, before cold calling, before even the written word. I would suggest back in the caveman times, if you were a international firm of headhunters or a graphic designer or a marketing specialist, and you wanted to spread the word about what you did, you had one thing available to you, and that was word of mouth. And so that referral piece is inbuilt within us. It speaks to our tribal nature of wanting to connect. And you know what? There's some stats that back this stuff up as well, that those of you who've heard me speak before would have probably seen these, but they're worth repeating. Look at 84% of B2B decision makers start with a referral, and companies with formalized referral programs, 86% more revenue. Now, the word formal may have some of you shuddering. Everything we're going to talk about today is about leveraging trusted relationships. It's not about pushy, in your face sales tactics. It's just about being more intentional in how you go about doing this. People are talking about you anyway, so you may as well get them talking about you in the right way at the right time. Because we've all heard the saying, it's not just what you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know. But let's do something about it, because only 30% of the companies surveyed had a formalized referral program. So quick show of hands, how many of you get referrals into your business? Okay, all of you, wonderful. And how many of you are asking for them? Okay, that's a nice hand. I'm glad Ant put his hand up there, because I'd be a bit worried after working with him for a while if he wasn't. And how many of you had said you had a proper kind of process behind this stuff? Okay, yeah, much fewer and a couple of wavy hands. All right, that's not a bad percentage though. So for those of you where this is kind of much newer and much less process driven, hopefully there's lots you can take away today. For those of you where you're doing this consistently already, hopefully I can kind of give you that little 10-15% boost that's really going to take your strategy to the next level. Because it does take strategy and it does take intention. Okay, so very quickly, for those of you that I haven't met before, who am I? Why are you listening to me? So I've got a background in business membership, worked for the Chamber of Commerce, and then you'll see a logo business scene there. That's a small business membership organisation that I grew to 2,000 members, pretty much entirely through referrals and strategic partners. I was then responsible for providing leads to some of the big global brands you see here, acting as their gateway to the UK SME marketplace. And then since 2020, just before COVID, at Collaboration Junkie, I've been helping brands just like you identify, nurture and scale partnership and referral opportunities. So I've had some successes along the way, but I've made or witnessed so many more mistakes. So everything that I'm going to talk about is based on practical, real life examples. And what we're going to cover today is the who, why, when, what, how of referrals. The who, the why, the what, the when, the how. So before we crack on with that, there is one golden rule with referrals, which is to make it easy. Hands up, who's busy at the moment? Yeah, we're all busy, right? Sometimes it can be good busy, sometimes it can be not as good busy, but we're always busy. We live in a busy world. We live in a busy kind of environment, which means if something isn't easy for us to do and it's not part of our core activity, we won't do it. Even if we want to, we'll put it on the I'll get round to it pile. I don't know about you, but I'll get round to it pile only really gets looked at when I sweep it off my metaphorical desk to start a new one. So there's a golden rule across all of this stuff, which is to make it as easy as possible for the person you're asking to be able to introduce you. So this isn't a dictionary definition. It's a Dave definition of what I believe a referral is. There's lots of different ways you can do it, but the thing we're going to be really focusing on here is warm, contextualized introductions from one individual to another mutual connection, so that handover process just feels smooth. It's about people introducing the right people to you at the right time. So why referrals? Wait, I'm rubbish at monitoring chat, I'm afraid, but come off mute, shout, wave a hand. Why are referrals great? Come on, I did say I'd look for participation. Come on. Yes, Nicole, go for it.
They're great because it's someone doing that you're marketing and selling on your behalf. You know, they've obviously brought into you, believe you offer a good service, so they're marketing you whilst you don't have to do too much, obviously, apart from do a good job when they do refer someone to you. But it's that whole also know, like, and trust piece. Yeah. You know, there's an automatic assumption if someone's made a referral that you are good because the person that they've trusted believes you are. So it's a win-win all around to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, I saw you go to jump in. And then Martin, I'll come to you. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very similar to Nicole's. It was people buy from people. So obviously, if you've got someone that's going to be recommended to you, you're more than likely to go with them rather than trying to find your own source. Yeah. And I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Martin.
Yeah, I guess it's the outcome of what Krishna and Nicola said, that you convert prospects with less effort.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sylvia?
I was going to say the same, you know, that is the conversion rate is really high. Yeah, that's the best thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, gold stars all round, because I think there's a bunch of things here that people have said. So yeah, people do business. The full text is people do business with and refer people to people they know, like, and trust, all things being equal. Which means shorter sales cycles, less haggling on price, and you're not going to get ghosted because of someone else's reputation is on the line. Yes, it grows a business, but when you get it right and you're intentional about asking for referrals, it grows a business with clients that you love working with. And it's also the ultimate sign of trust. I get some people that get concerned, like, oh, if I ask for introductions on my existing clients, I'm going to feel that I'm not enough for them. Actually, the flip's true, because when a client refers you, actually, they're trusting you with their reputation. And that's the greatest thing anyone can do. So it really brings your clients closer to the business as well. People who come in via introduction are also more likely to become introducers themselves as well, which means this is something that can really scale. It's not a linear thing. One can become two, can become four, etc. And if you've got a team, if you can build a culture of referrals in your brand, where everyone that's customer facing feels empowered to do this, then it actually can bring your team closer as well. So here's where we're looking for a little bit of honesty. For those of you that aren't asking, why not? What's stopping you currently from either doing it or doing it consistently? Sylvia, you've still got a hand up, so I don't know whether I should pick on you and make you make you go or not. You don't have to.
Yeah, it's okay. I can say something, but yeah, it was because of before. But what I'm not asking is, I don't know, maybe, you know, not to give this impression that I'm really looking for new clients, although as consultant, you're always looking for new clients, but you don't want to look as needy, right? So maybe that's why it's stopping me.
Yep, okay. Yep, anyone else? Come on. Yes, Anthony, yeah.
I think it's also, as you said, I need something which works quickly, given the time. And I don't, the reason I'm here is to find out what's a good way of doing it efficiently. And as other people have said as well, not upsetting or pestering contacts, but doing it in a systematic and friendly and not awkward way, I think.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Yeah, and David?
Yeah, I think sometimes it can just get a bit cheeky, you know, like that's just my sense anyway. Just a bit cheeky asking for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, you won't be surprised to hear these are all variations of things that I've heard before, and typically everything normally falls into one of two categories. One will be process, forgetting to do it. People might say they don't have time, but that actually tends to be they forget, because it doesn't take long to create to ask for an introduction. So typically it comes down to process knowledge, or it comes down to mindset, and whether it's something I call the ick, whether it feels a bit cheeky, whether you're nervous. Lots of people get the ick about asking for introductions. And I wondered if this was a British thing, but I've delivered this talk virtually all around the world. Everyone gets the ick. Even in America, where you'd have thought they are the nation that would least likely get the ick about this sort of stuff. Nope, it's universal. Now, there's all sorts of stuff that can be wrapped up in this, like imposter syndrome and fear of rejection and all that good stuff, which is, I'm not the person to run that particular workshop. But what I do want to ask a question is, the last time you made an introduction to someone else and you heard that it went well, how did that make you feel? Good. Well, I'm getting a nod and a smile from Mark. It's a nice thing, right? It goes back to that tribal nature of wanting to connect like-minded people. So my question to you is, why wouldn't someone else feel the same doing it to you? So it's almost our duty to ask for introductions, because if we don't, you're denying your audience that warm, fuzzy feeling they get from making an introduction to you and knowing it went really well, because people love to make introductions. The idea is to ask in the right way at the right time, so that it doesn't feel like a burden. You make it easy on them. And that's what we're going to spend the rest of this piece covering, because at the end of the day, what's the worst that could happen? Likely they just say no, they're not able to do it. It's unrealistic that someone's going to be so offended by your request that they pull all their work from you and never want to speak to you again, right? The worst that could happen is someone's going to say no. So, who should we be asking for referrals? Now, I would say that I'd like to think that Guess Who is a little bit more diverse than it was when I was growing up, but I've gone with the mid-80s version. I'm 44 tomorrow, so this is the one that I grew up with. But who should we be asking for referrals? In fact, I'm going to throw it out. Who should we be asking for introductions?
I'd go with like existing clients.
Absolutely existing clients, but only the ones you like. If you've got the odd client who's an arsehole, don't ask them, because they probably know other arseholes, right? So absolutely 100% Chris, and I'm sure you work with largely amazing people, if not all, in which case ask. But yes, the clients that we enjoy working with and we think that's where the network's, absolutely 100%. Anyone else? Right, in the interest of cramming stuff in, anyone and everyone is the first answer, right? But there are a couple of groups that people don't often think about, and that's ex-colleagues. If you come from corporate, kind of lots of people don't think about that onward network. They think, oh, I'm doing something completely different now. That doesn't mean that your old contacts aren't still relevant for you. Your prospects, if you've got long sales cycles, or even people that just haven't been able to say yes to you for whatever reason, that doesn't mean they're not going to introduce you to you. And previous clients, so many people don't do this piece. They don't do that kind of retouch in. And then anyone and everyone who's got a vested interest in you. Coaches, consultants, any communities you're a part of. Literally, the thing is endless. And even friends and family. The idea is just to be switched on and know when it's appropriate to do this. What I would say, though, is that they will all have different drivers for doing it. So I do this bit nice and early, because there's always normally a few people on the webinar who are like, wow, yeah, but the thing that's stopping me is, how do I reward? How do I not? So there is a brilliant book called Drive by Dan Pink. I don't know if any of you have read it or listened to it. And it talks about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. And the majority of us are intrinsically motivated, right? Like, we will do something because we want to do it, which means if you over incentivize a referral from the outset, like typically like big brands do, who have lost touch with their customer base, right? Like Xero sending me an email once a month offering me 50 quid if I refer someone to them, right? there is a good chance that you'll actually have the opposite effect of what you want, because a bunch of people who would refer you anyway, because they love you, will go, oh, now you've made it like a salesy thing. Like, I was going to introduce you anyway. Now you've made me feel a little bit awkward. The majority of your audience, whether that's your network or your happy clients, will refer you just because you ask them to. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't reward them, though, but I would say it should always be a reward rather than an incentive. So it's a thank you rather than a reason. And for me, it's a bit different when you get into formal partnerships on a commercial level. There, I'm a big fan of putting some financials in place. But when it comes to kind of referrals from your clients in your network, for me, it's a thank you. And the more personal, the better, right? I always say the aim of a referral kind of reward should be to raise an unexpected smile. You want someone to pick up the phone and go, Johnny, there was no need for you to do that, but thank you so much. It meant the world, right? And the more personal you can be, the better. I'll start again. The more personal you can make it, the better. So if you know something about those people, use it. There was someone who, I always use an example of a guy who gave me a dream referral. It was absolutely amazing. Turned in some really chunky bits of work. He never would have accepted any kind of financial piece on it. But I took him to a nice lunch at a sushi place and that I knew he liked. And then at the end of it all, I gave him a 150 quid Ticketmaster voucher, because he'd said that him and his wife hadn't been to a gig for ages on a previous chat. I said, right, book that bloody gig and tell me how it went. And that meant more to him than any kind of financial commission would have done. Now, it was a chunky bit of work, so I knew the value. That's why I did that amount. But maybe you don't know the person that well enough, but the more personal you can make it, the better. For those people that are financially motivated, you can always have a conversation with them afterwards around how you might want to do that. Okay. There's a good chance that if someone's in a commission-based role themselves, then they're going to be interested in a financial piece. Or if they're in sales as well, then they're going to be interested. As for kind of the ins and outs of that, I'll share another link to a separate video I did on how you can reward people financially, because there's all sorts of things like fixed fee, ongoing. I'm a big fan of lifetime value, paying someone a percentage of the lifetime value, particularly if it's a recurring product. But there are so many intricacies. I could run a webinar on itself. Before we move on, has anyone got any specific questions around kind of how you reward introductions? Because I know it can be a sticking point for lots of people. So yes, Nicole.
Did you say, because for mine I have a fixed rate fee, did you say it's better to obviously tell when you're asking people referrals, mention that bit or not until afterwards, or depending on how well you know them? Because obviously, like you said, you don't want to do it. Yeah, it's pros and cons of doing it, isn't it? So is it better to sort of share the financial piece before?
I would say gut feel, right? If someone's talking about they might be able to refer you consistently, then you can go, oh, I've got this thing in place if you want to talk about it, right? And then it's kind of you just kind of make it nice and relaxed, right? And the people who aren't interested in that won't take offense by it. The people who are interested in the commission side, they don't care how you position it, right? Because they're just interested in what that outcome is. And for people that have done it organically and given you a referral, then again, use your gut feel as to whether you think this is someone who would be interested in that conversation or not, and have it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Cool. Right. So we've done the who, we've done the why. Next, we're on to the what. Now, I mentioned the thing about warm contextualized introductions, but before we do that, I want to talk about referral staircases. So much like product ladders and product staircases that you get, there are loads of ways you can be using referrals in your business, right? Chris has an amazing newsletter, right? I can't remember if you've got a bit on the bottom of it to get people to share it, right? Or if people want to share your content or share events. So all these lower level things you can do, absolutely do them, right? Because as well as just helping people spread the word, and it's also a form of referral. It's a form of introduction. It's a form of social proof. So it's all good stuff. And the more people do that, they're just getting more and more used to sharing what you do, and they're probably moving up and up that kind of staircase towards actually making a personal introduction. Johnny's getting name checked for the second time because his work-free platform's got an amazing level of doing this, where they reward social shares and all this sort of stuff, building up to introductions, and we can all kind of do that stuff as well. So I'm not saying don't do it, but the focus today is going to be on that more personal introduction piece. And with that in mind, number one rule I can just encourage you all to do is to be specific. There is a reason why I use this image. A, because I love festivals, but B, because when I ran my membership organization, I was running maybe 2 or 3 events a week with probably up to 200 business owners. So I was seeing up to 200 business owners a week, and as the host of the event, people would come up to me because they'd be looking for introductions. And I go, great, yeah, who are you looking to be introduced to? And they go, oh, I work with any small business owner, thinking they were being really helpful because they were being so broad. And do you know what I saw? I saw a sea of people, like a festival crowd. I imagine a festival crowd, I've never been on the main stage, but just an absolute fog of people. No one sprang to mind. The minute they started to be more specific, like I'm looking to speak to accountants in this region of this size who target this customer, it was much easier for someone to come into focus, like that one girl holding the flag at the front of my image, right? And so while the top of funnel dopamine hit of being isn't as strong, because when you're broad, everyone will say, yeah, I'll think of someone. The more specific you are, the more likely you're actually to get results at the end. And so, as I said, this can be a specific type of business. And you know, the best thing that we can do as well with things like LinkedIn, you're able to the easiest things when you know someone else. If I go, hey, Sue, I know you're connected to so-and-so. I'd love an introduction because when someone does that to me, as long as I know the person well enough and are happy to make the introduction, when someone, have you guys just seen a pop-up come up over my slides? No, okay, cool. So I set it up right. On my other screen, I've just got this pop-up that's come across the slides. I didn't want to keep going and then everyone be too polite to mention it. When someone says to me, Dave, can you introduce me to so-and-so? I'm like, yes, great. It just makes my life so much easier. So named introductions are great. I would also say if you're working with large enough clients, please don't underestimate the power of an internal referral. Is there another geographical region or another department that you can do what you're doing in? Because again, they are so easy for other people to make. You don't need to know the name. You just need to know, oh, can I speak to the marketing director, learning and development director of this department, please? So easy for people to make those introductions. The other way of, and if you are struggling with this, just think about the work you do that's the most enjoyable and the most profitable and the most impactful, because that's where your ideal client sits, right? There's much more to an ideal client than that, but in a nutshell, you want to enjoy working with them and want to be profitable and you want to be doing good work. There's a second way of being specific though, and that's something that I call situational niching. And this is all around triggers and moments in time. So for each one of your businesses, there will be a moment in time in your prospect's life, whether that's their personal life or their business life or their career, where what you do is just absolutely needed, right? Think about where your sales cycle is at its shortest. Someone's like, take my money. I don't need your pitch. I need what you did yesterday, right? We all have those moments in time in our business. And I would encourage you all to kind of go away and just have a think about what they are, scribble them all down. It could be someone taking on their first employee. It could be they've been in business an amount of time and maybe they're looking for a brand refresh. It could be that they've reached a certain age in their personal life. It could be that they've just been promoted. It could be that someone's just moved offices. Whatever it may be, there's a moments in time where your product or service is absolutely at its most essential and easiest to pitch. There's either an opportunity that you're solving or a problem, an opportunity that you're helping realize or a problem that you're solving. Now, what moments in time are, what the triggers are, is what your prospects are saying when they're in that moment in time. Because what they're not saying, as much as we would all like them to, is what's probably written on your website. People don't say they're looking for a proactive accountant who really understands and gets involved with their customers. They're at a networking event complaining that their existing accountant only gets in touch with them once a year, right? And so it's really about putting yourself in your prospect and your client's shoes. And if you're unsure on these, speak to your happy client and try and get some of these words out of them. Because once you've got that, once you've got what your target market are actually saying and expressing, then you can use that with your referrers. Because we've all heard the power of storytelling and marketing, and these are like little mini stories that sit in the minds of your clients and your introducers and your referrers. And so you say, hey Sylvia, brilliant, thanks so much for saying that. Listen, if when you're out and about you hear insert company saying these sorts of things, then I love them to introduce them to me because. And so the more human you make those words, maybe Sylvia doesn't know anyone right now that she can introduce me to, but that kind of story-based message is something that will sit in Sylvia's subconscious, and the next time she's at the agency social club where we met a week or so ago, someone will say something and she'll go, oh, I know just the person I should introduce you to. So there's two ways of being specific. One is about getting results right now, which is going, do you know this specific business? The other is planting a seed for someone to be out there, right? And for people who network a lot and have got good networks, these triggers work really well because they just sit there and they're constantly able to do it. Okay, everyone okay on those two principles? Yeah, awesome. Okay. Oh, I should have said, it's not common sense, it's experience. Sharing some of this stuff may seem obvious, right? But it's only obvious to us because we live and breathe our businesses. You do have to, you might like to think that of course your clients would introduce someone to you if they heard someone talking about the problem that you solve. But unless you've asked them, then it's not sitting there. It's not even registering that you're looking for introductions. I've had plenty of people tell me, and clients tell me that people have told them, oh, I didn't think you needed any business. So I've kind of not worried about making introductions. And so it really is important that we actually ask. As I said, it may seem like common sense, but some of this stuff is not, it's experience. Okay, so when to ask? When's the right time to ask for an introduction? Yes, Nicole, go for it.
I think a lot of people think to do it afterwards, which isn't, and the project's finished or something, which isn't obviously wrong, as long as, if they'll give you a referral, then that's great. But I think from what you also said before, that during, when things are going well, someone might be more inclined to do that than, if things aren't going so well or it's ended and you're not really a priority for them anymore because they're not working actively with you as such.
Yeah, certainly there's opportunities early in the chain. Anyone else want to just kind of put in when they ask? Oh, we've got quiet room. Okay. Oh, David, you look like you were about to jump in then. No, right. So, look, any time is the right time. Be opportunity ready and be ready to hear positive feedback. But for me, the absolute best time is when your customers are most delighted, right? When they're absolutely at their peak excitement. I'm going to move our friend on here. I call them wow moments. And the example I use, and this comes back to Nicole's point, was when I got my own branding done. I knew it was going to be good because I knew the agency that was doing it, a personal friend of the owner, Nicole and Sue, I think you both know Emma Humphreys, and the wonderful team at Genius. And so I knew it was going to be good. But when I got my first draft back of this is what we think of your brand, it was amazing. I get little goosebumps thinking about it now because I was sat indoors and it was just so much more than I ever expected it to be. It felt amazing. Now, a month down the line, when I got that finalized brand and all the assets back, it was great, but it wasn't as good. a feeling, because all they've done is delivered against my heightened expectations. It was that earlier point in the journey where I was blown away because they'd over delivered. Now, that moment is different for every people. Coaches and people who do SEO, Sylvia, often the real wow moment for your clients might be afterwards, because there's a compound, there's a lag effect between the SEO work working or the coaching working, whatever it may be. I've had clients who actually, some of their wow moments are before people are even clients, because the discovery work they do is so good. They're an IT services provider, and they do such a good discovery bit of the state of someone's 365 kind of portfolio that they get referrals there and then, just into more of those discovery phases, and that works for them. So what I would encourage you all to do is map out your customer journey right from first point of contact as a prospect all the way through till potentially after someone is a client, and think about all the points that you get wow moments, and they'll be different for different people. And I'd encourage you all as well to think about the ones that you're not in the room for. And if you're not in the room for them, can you engineer another customer touch point to do that? If it's 3 months after you finished working with them, maybe add that into your journeys. And of course, we don't ask at each one of these points. That would become the pushy, salesy stuff that I said this isn't about. Referrals is still a personal thing, can still come down to gut feel. But at least if you're aware of these bits in these points in your journey, you can put some reminders in, you can put some process in place, and you can go, right, you're aware, you're ready. You know, you've already decided what you're going to ask for. Kind of, you can do some prep. And so if the opportunity is right and you go, yes, this is the response I was looking for, you can ask. And if you go, oh, okay, that was all right, but I reckon not as good as normal, but there's another touch point coming a month down the line and you wait till then great, do it. On that note, we don't want to ruin a wow moment, right? If someone is like super enthused, they're in the middle of a coaching session or they've just had this breakthrough, then going, right, it's now time to ask for referrals, right, kind of ruins the moment. I delivered this talk in person at the business show, and there was someone who did cuddle therapy, and I'm like, look, you're not going to be hugging someone and like whisper in their ear like, can I have a referral, please? Right? That's be a bit sinister, and also you don't want to ruin the customer experience. In that instance, you just engineer a touch point as soon as you possibly can afterwards. You pick up the phone the next day, you drop the person an email the next day, whatever it may be, and you make your request that way. You kind of remind them about that great feeling and you make the request, right? So don't ruin moments, but at least know where they could come, so you're prepared. All okay on this kind of concept of wow moments? Any questions? No, all good. Right, how to ask. Here's where I give you the I'm going to go all LinkedIn DM here. Like, here's how I give you the proven 10-word formula to the perfect referral request. Obviously, I'm not, right? Because it doesn't exist. I'm going to give you a couple of golden rules. Number one, keep it natural, right? So don't kind of be all conversational and then take a deep breath and prepare yourself to ask for an introduction, because that's going to make it feel icky for everyone concerned. It should feel conversational. Referrals make the world go round. But if you're looking for a new restaurant, a new film, and whatever it may be, something to do, you ask your friends, and it should feel like that. It should feel like asking a favor from a friend. Maybe it's not going right away, right? Practice makes progress, but done is better than perfect. So first and foremost, be as natural as you can about it, and just get going with it. But there is kind of a structure that you can loosely follow. And the first one's going to be the tee up. So this will be why you're asking for an introduction. It could be one of those wow moments. The other really strong thing is obligation points. You've got someone out of the shit and they know that you have, and they feel a little bit guilty and very appreciative. Actually, the perfect time for an introduction. If someone says, oh, I owe you one, then they genuinely mean that. They want to do something nice for you, and they want to feel better about the fact that they've messed up and you've got them out of the hole. So that's another really powerful time to ask. So there's the reason why it happened. It could be that someone's left you a review, by the way. I did a post on this on LinkedIn on Monday. I get asked a lot, oh, do I ask for a review or ask for a referral? Like, they're not mutually exclusive. If someone's left you a review, that is a wow moment in its own right. And it's so easy to build into your thank you process for leaving a review or an introduction request. If you do one thing around building into a process, that's probably the easiest thing that you could do taken away from today. Then the specifics. So be really intentional. Do not use the word anyone. Are you asking for a specific person or a specific type of business, or are you planting one of those seeds for the future as one of those triggers? Make sure you ask for an introduction. That is the golden rule. How many times have you had people say to you, oh, I've mentioned you to loads of people, they'll be in touch. Do they get in touch? Yeah, very rarely do they get in touch, right? It's just the way it is. And worse, they've probably been more alerted now to a problem they want a solution for, and they're potentially Googling competitors, right? So make sure that you actually ask for an introduction. This is the important bit. Give some context. Why that person? Why am I entrusting my reputation with this person to you to make the introduction? So it doesn't need to be War and Peace, but give them some context. It could be that you've just built another awesome previous awesome website for some vets. Chris, I know it's not particularly whatever it may be, but it could be that there's a change in legislation happening that means that's why you want to talk to this particular type of people. Give some context, and then there's a really key bit that and give some reassurance. I talk about it being a gentle next step. Because while the person you're asking to make an introduction may know that you're not going to hard sell the person they introduce, the person they're introducing doesn't know that. And if you remind the person that you're asking for an introduction that in the first instance you'd love to just get on the phone with them and see how they can help, right? So Sue, I know you kind of look for people that where their marketing department is stretched and everything else. If your first thing is, I would love to just get on the phone in the first instance, see if I can give them some advice on how they can kind of just manage things a little bit better, the person you're asking for the introduction is more likely to pass those words on to the potential referrer. And I'm much more likely to say yes to an introduction that's a friendly chat to see if someone can help me than I am, oh, do you want to fancy having a sales conversation? Right? Martin may argue with that because he does sales training, but in general, most people would rather have a chat with someone and get some value than they would know they're going straight into a sales conversation. So again, it may seem like common sense, but if you point it out, they're more likely to point that on as well. And so if you follow that loose structure, then you'll find that that's the best way to do it. But it should be conversational. Tone of voice needs to be your tone of voice. I'm pretty direct and I'm pretty cheeky when I ask for mine, because that A, suits my personality, and B, I talk about referrals. So it'd be a bit odd if I didn't ask and wasn't quite direct about it. You'll have different relationships with your clients. So there is no right or wrong way. The right way is the way that you feel completely relaxed and comfortable doing, because then it's going to come across the easiest. You're more likely to do it. If you feel comfortable doing it, you're more likely to do it and repeatedly do it, and then you'll get better at it and you'll do more of it and you'll be more successful. So what I would recommend you do is, and I'll send a more detailed kind of request template out on the email I send out, is get some words down, not a script as such, but get some words down that you think you would use, say them out loud, because I promise you the first time you write them down, when you say them out loud, they will sound awful. Right? So humanize them and just know that you've got, and it won't ever work exactly like that, but if you've got a couple of different ways of asking for an introduction written in your mind, like, you know what, I can do this, you're way more likely when that next opportunity comes up to do it, to go, okay, right. And it might not be perfect, but you will do it. And then the final thing from me is communication is key. I've said before, every time someone makes an introduction to you, they're not just giving you a lead, they're giving you a little bit of their reputation to look after. So treat that with the trust and the respect that it deserves. Keep people in the loop with what's going on, right? You don't have to kind of bombard them with information, but let them know at key milestones. If you're not going to be speaking to the person for a few months, for whatever reason, let them know. Don't leave the person that made an introduction to you wondering what's going on with their reputation, because it's a surefire way for them not to refer you again. even if it doesn't turn up to be business, still say thank you at its conclusion. And then if it didn't turn into work because the referral wasn't quite right, you can gently educate them. Thanking them gets you another introduction. Educating them gets you a better introduction next time round. So, who to ask? Anyone and everyone, but I would start with your most friendly clients that you absolutely love and the most trusted people in your network. Why? Why will they do it? They'll do it just because they love you, right? But say thanks afterwards. Do something nice for them. What to ask for? Be specific. Either situational, niche it, or be really specific about the type of business. Ask at wow moments. But if you haven't been asking previously, intentionally, you've got a bunch of people out there ready and waiting that you don't need to wait for a wow moment because you've got a bank of credit in the bank. And then keep it natural when you do ask. Keep it natural. Okay. Hopefully that's a value. We'll do Q&A in just a second. But I want to let you know about my Better Referrals More Often group program, which essentially is where we come together and get shit done. We do the exact same framework that we've kind of blitzed through in half an hour today, but in much greater detail. As well as kind of the actual workshops. You get a full kind of framework document that you can refer back to, and there's an action roadmap to make sure that you can tick everything off. There's group and one-to-one support. It's run online with a maximum of 8 business owners. The May cohort, which has only got 1 spot left, is a 600 quid one-off fee, and that's for 2 half-day workshops and then 3 follow-up sessions. The follow-up sessions are all about, again, it's about implementation. This group program is about, instead of you taking loads of notes today and going, oh yeah, I'm going to go away and do that, and maybe doing one thing, maybe just it ending up in those other pile of notes, the group program is about you actually getting it done. So where there are communication processes to do, templates to write, we're doing those in the session and feeding it back as a group. And that's what the follow-up sessions are there for as well, to hold people to account. It moves it from something that's on your nice to have to something that actually is making a real impact in your business. The next cohort is the 4th cohort. That's a full day workshop with 4 follow-up sessions. That one's £750. If you're interested in either of those, then let me know. I'll put some links in the chat, and there'll be some links in the follow-up. Would love to kind of work with you and get this stuff really right in your business. It works. I've got a heap of wonderful testimonials. And for most people on here, I would imagine you don't need many clients from doing this to kind of cover that ROI, and it will compound and compound for many years to come. Thank you for listening. I'm going to stop sharing now and open it up to some Q&A. Awesome. Any questions? Questions, comments, anything? Or I stunned you all into silence? Not one. Okay. Oh, Rondi, yay. Go for it.
Sorry, and I waved as well. So yeah, that's just a nice friendly gesture.
I'll
So I've got terrible Wi-Fi. So sorry, Dave. Excellent. Again, fantastic. I refer everybody to this webinar. I have a quick question on the wow moment and the when for the wow moments. I feel like if I ask a client for a referral at the wow moment, it detracts from our attention to them. So if the wow is even on proposal and we feel like already thinking ahead of them, doesn't give them the care, love and attention that they feel they deserve. What's your comments on that?
Okay, so if you don't, there's plenty of sales training out there that says that categorically says the best time to ask for a referral just after someone's signed, right? Which I disagree with in terms of it might not be the best, but it certainly is a wow moment because someone's elated. But if you're nervous about doing it that early on, then you can always seed a referral request, like all being well, and you can talk about how excited you are to work with them and that you love working with clients like them. So essentially you put it back to the client that you're complimenting them, that you love working with people like them, and so all being well, like if they can introduce you to more wonderful people like them, that would be amazing. And so you make it all about the client and not about you. But gut feel, right? If it doesn't feel right in that moment, then wait to one that does feel right. There is an element of getting out of your own way and that ick, but there can be a healthy amount of ick. There is a healthy level where you go, oh, is this appropriate or not? But there's a crazy stat. I was on a sales podcast not long ago, and there was a crazy stat that was something like 91% of buyers would make a referral, but only 20% of salespeople ask us. It's an insane mismatch between us asking and people willing to do it. But yeah, you can always seed the request and yeah, make it all about them. That's where if someone's come into you via referral, it's even easier because you can reference that as well. So yeah. Does that help?
Yeah, amazing as usual. Thank you, Dave.
No worries at all. Sylvia.
Yeah, thank you again also for the webinar. Very interesting. So my question is kind of about the when and how, more like the when. So for example, in my case, I do referrals and I get referrals. When I used to do it is when I have a client and I match out, or maybe it's not a good fit for me, and then I refer to other. So for me, identify that's like the best moment to refer people, right? So I'm asking, do you have any other examples of how or when to get referrals?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting one where people just aren't the right fit because you're moving into partner territory there, right? Where these are people that are speaking, these are referrals that can happen on a consistent basis. And so you're moving into more strategic partner territory there, which is the next webinar I've got on the 23rd of May, just throwing that one out there. But yeah, so if it's directly asking from your clients, it's going to be at what points they, at what point are they kind of really seeing the results? And so that could be at a spec phase. I've worked with some SEO agencies before and they're like, there's a bit where we're implementing where actually it's not right. It can feel, there can be a bit of tension sometimes while we wait for results to come in, but then it can be that lag effect. So if you know that there's a metric, if you know that there's a metric that your work together is going to be deemed a success by, then that's the obvious first kind of wow moment. If there is a page ranking or a number of views or a number of leads, or there is something that they're defining your work with them as success by, that's the time to ask. And so if you're capturing that information at onboarding, that's great because it gives you a really easy step to do that. And you can even see the referral request then. If part of your onboarding is talking about what success looks like for the client, you can kind of say then really easily, awesome, if we deliver that, you're gonna happy to tell all your friends about this? And people will go, yeah, of course we will, like, because who wouldn't if you do an amazing job? So you can really start to seed it into your processes. Is that okay? And then yeah, the other one would be when people leave you a review. People leave you a review, say thank you and ask them for an introduction. Cool. Dan, yes, over to you.
Thanks very much. Great talk as always, Dave. And thank you very much for today. Really enjoyed it. So my question is about how familiar do you have to be with somebody? So I'll give you a bit of context. So I use the Eurostar. I travel between London and Paris at least twice a month. I'm going through Eurostar. And being the sociable, chatty person I am, I generally get chatting with all sorts of people in the departures lounge while we're waiting for our train. We've got nothing better to do. Everybody's excited. Blah blah blah, and quite often I hand over a business card and I chat to people and say, give me a shout if you need any services from me. However, a couple of times I've been in a situation where someone's talked about what they do, and I know fine well they are connected with people that I'd like to be connected with, but as I met them 30 seconds ago, I kind of say, oh, well, I'd love to meet you. Thank you very much. Here's my card. Could you put me in touch with your mate that I've never met and I've only met you 30 seconds ago? Kind of where's the line of familiarity when you can actually ask for that referral?
So there isn't one. It's really blurry, right? And it will depend on one of two main things off the top of my head. The first one will be that other person's disposition around whether they're a connector of people. Someone like me is probably going to connect someone easier because I'm a natural connector of people. But the most important one will be the level of introduction that you're looking for and the context, right? Like if you suddenly want an introduction to the CEO of Siemens, or Google, right? And just because they'd be a really cool contact, it's probably not going to happen, right? You haven't got, yeah, it's a high level introduction and you haven't got the context, right? However, if those two things match because it's right bang in your target market and you've got really strong reason to do it, it makes it much more likely. How I would approach that is call it out. That I appreciate we've just met, but actually, did I hear? Can I drop you some info? Can we connect on LinkedIn? Can I drop you some info? Because if you'd be open to it, I'd love to. And like, call it out, and then you'll be able to gauge the other person's response around whether that's going to go somewhere or not. But they're ones where you're never going to be in that situation, potentially never going to be in that situation again. So anything's better than nothing, right?
That's the thing. I always leave there that if I didn't do it, I would regret it for the rest of the day. And I think so. I always better to give a card and the card goes straight in the bin as soon as I've turned my back than not to have given the card at all. Because one example, recently, it was a guy I was chatting to, really nice guy. He owns an advertising company. We just got chatting about businesses and starting businesses, blah, blah, blah. But he mentioned that one of his friends owns a chain of restaurants. And I was like, that's perfect for me. That's kind of I would love to, but I didn't ask for that referral because I was like, I'd only just met the guy. I wasn't going to say, oh, could you put me in touch with the guy who runs all these restaurants that need help with their customer experience? Like,
yeah, that might be one where you don't get the introduction, but the person does put your stuff under that person's nose, right?
Yeah,
which isn't a one contextualized introduction, but it's better than nothing. Again,
exactly.
Right? And so it's I would treat that as, can I send something? Can you look for the simple next step rather than jumping straight to the introduction is what I would do. So
cool. That's great. Thanks, Dave.
Awesome. We got one from Johnny around common pitfalls. What are the most common pitfalls you've seen in companies adopting referral-based go-to-market strategy? What should we not do? The thing that you shouldn't do is not understand your audience. That's the biggest thing that I see people getting wrong. I said kind of go to market, and it depends again whether you're in a B2B or a B2C space. In B2C, people almost expect something a little bit more, and particularly as a go to market strategy, you've got people that are early adopters and want to shout about it. What I would do in those instances is give people something that they already want, right? So depending on where someone is on that kind of curve of, was it early adopters, and then the early minority, and then the majority. The people have different drivers, right? If you can understand, Sue's laughing, I've probably got a couple of those wrong, but if you understand the different drivers for the people on that kind of curve of adoption, and make sure that you give them what they want. So your early adopters, they probably want profile, they want to be made to feel that they're belonging and they're part of the growth of something. So make the reward reflect that. Tailor your rewards to what people actually want is the biggest thing, I would say. And I think quite a lot of the time brands don't get that. They underestimate the value of just the inherent thing that they are, the community that they are, the mission they're on, the purpose they're on. Which I don't think is an issue for you, Johnny, from everything I've seen. I think you're kind of nailing that piece, but that's what I see. That is what I see people get wrong. Just a really mismatched message. But people do it not just for go to market; they do it ongoing. I always call out Zero on this, sending me 50 quid emails. Like, I'm probably not recommending Zero anyway. Bloody hate using Zero. It's made for accountants, not business owners. But the 50 quid isn't going to be the thing that inspires me to do it. Right? It's just such a misplaced message for me. So that would be my one. Cool. Right, is that all? Cool. Right, well, thank you for staying to the end. If you think of anything else, drop me a line. Look, I'm going to be broad and vague here, which I've obviously said not to, but if on your travels you come across people that are talking about wanting to get more work through referrals, or they're looking to do more stuff because they're worried about scaling through referrals, then I would love if you could point them in the direction of this webinar. So nice and gentle, as you see, they're not much of a sales pitch, all value. So the more shouting you can do, the better it is for me. And if anyone wants to go and leave something nice on LinkedIn, that's always appreciated as well. You will get recording, slides, that extra template for requests heading your way very soon. In the meantime, have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week, everyone. Thank you.